Hello and welcome to your wake up call. My name is Marc Caron and I'm here coming to you from Vancouver, British Columbia. So good evening at 7 o'clock in the evening here. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is, whenever you're watching this as it lives on the World Wide Web. I thank you for coming to our program. And again, we're airing on PSSM Global and PMC Global. I want to give them a big thank you for allowing me to share some of the things that excite me about my life and the tools and, the different kinds of things that have made a difference for me that, who knows, maybe it can make a difference for you. And that's what I hope for. And that's why I call this show your wake up call, because I like to wake people up to the possibilities and the differences to, so they can have a better everyday life for themselves and for others. So it's your wake-up call. And today, I always wonder what I'm going to talk about every time. And I wanted to share an experience that I had this weekend that led me to my topic today, because I think it's a really interesting tool that we can use to help us in different life situations, for some guidance, for some wisdom, for some insight. Hey, and maybe even just for fun. Have you ever picked up an oracle card? Well, I picked up a bunch years ago. I had a few experiences with them and I thought they're kind of fun. And, they had some value because their messages were really quite on the money for me. And I was able to apply what I was learning to my life and get some distinctions out of them. So, the first set I ever got, this is one we're going to do later. I'll tell you about these ones, was the Ascended Masters. And when I started working with the Ascended Master cards, it was really quite interesting because I was watching how my friends and people that I knew, as they would come to my home and they would use these cards, the profound experiences they would get from the meanings. And not to mention the ones I was getting, but I couldn't speak for, I can always speak for myself, but it was always interesting to see how my friends really got profound experiences. So I want to tell you a couple of stories that I thought were really interesting. And one was from this weekend. So I went to a little retreat with some friends of mine and neighbors. And we went out and spent the weekend at a place called Harrison Hot Springs, in this little island where this beautiful German lady created this amazing space called Elfenlau. It was all purple and built on the side of the hills of the lake, or of the island. You had to get there by boat and everything. So it was really quite beautiful. And one morning we were sitting out on the deck overlooking the lake, and it was a beautiful morning. It was Saturday morning. And one of our friends pulled out her cards. She pulled out 2 decks of cards. And one of them was life's purpose cards. And if you follow my show or have seen any past episodes, I did a show a couple of weeks ago on your life's purpose. What's your life's purpose? What's it all about? And I thought, interesting. Okay, let's see what the cards have to say my life purpose is. Now, the interesting thing about these cards, too, is you can pull one card randomly. You can do many card readings and spreads. There's different things within the history of the tarot and the mysticism and how it all works, which I've heard a lot of different explanations that I'm honestly not going to be here to tell you how they work today, because I just know they do work. And you can certainly go do your own research out there. There's a lot of information. But because I just don't want to even attempt to dive into explaining how that all works. But it works with energy and where we're at. Anyways, so I pulled the first card, and it was music, which I thought was really quite interesting. So I pulled 3 cards is what I did. And the second one was energy healing. It's really stuck with me as well. And the third one was writing. And what I really thought was really interesting, and here's why I thought it was appropriate for me, is a lot of stuff in my life is happening around music and helping artists and starting to do some live streaming and working on a couple of projects there. So I thought it was really quite interesting how music was my life's purpose. Not to mention, if you look around my space here, I've got a number of different instruments, because I always get inspired to buy these beautiful tools of the craft of music, and I never take the time to learn to play them. That's a little truth for me. So I also got another message, time to start putting some time aside to learn how to play my harmonium, my 3 different flutes, my ukulele, my guitar, my singing bowls. I really need to put them to good use. So music, I thought was interesting. So it really resonated with me. And then energy healing, I've always felt I was, somewhat of a healer. I do Reiki, a blessing giver. I do, just through meditation and divine blessings, I resonate with being an energy healer. And writing, well, I do write a lot, just not enough. And it just reminded me that maybe it's time to go write that book. However, I say that because it resonated with me. So on to the next deck of cards. So that was a deck. She had a deck of life purpose cards. And the next ones were just energy cards. So I thought energy healer. Okay, I'll pull an energy card. Well, our other friend had pulled a card from this deck before I did. She was the first one on that deck that morning. And she pulled dollar to value or door to value, this kind of obscure card. And our friend Cynthia says, she goes, that's a strange card. I've never seen anyone pull that card from this deck ever. So it's like, okay, so she read the card, read all the information, because the cards always come with a cool little book. If you're not familiar with cards, but they always come with a book that explain exactly a deeper meaning of the card, even though just the word or the image could really have an innate meaning for you as well. So she pulled this card, which is about prosperity and future opportunities of things changing and, opportunity and prosperity. So I got the card. It says, okay, my turn. I shuffle the deck. I do everything. I take my time, no rush. And I slowly I'm shuffling and I pull one card from the deck. What card do you think it was? It was the exact same card my friend pulled, right? Door to value. And I laughed because then I thought about, everything's changing. The world's changing, opportunities, music. I thought about music. But what was really interesting was how nobody had ever pulled this card in front of the woman who owned the cards before, because she thought it was so unique and interesting. And then I pulled the same card 5 minutes later. So to me, I don't believe in coincidence. Maybe you do. But I just thought it was really quite interesting and ironic that that was the case. So I'll share another quick story with you, and it was quite cute. And these are just coincidences and these divine happenings that I love to share, because for me, it kind of lends some credibility to the power of the card, especially if you've never had a card reading and you think it's all just a bunch of, hoo-ha or woo-woo or whatever you might think it is. So we did some Airbnb at our home, and we had this young Asian fellow who was moving to Vancouver. He stayed here for a little while, and he was here for dinner. And he saw all these cards on our coffee table in the front room. And he said, what are these cards? What are those? And I explained to him, well, they're oracle cards. They can, tell you, past, present, future. They can give you guidance. They can show insight on blind spots. They can, give you some insight. And he was kind of like, okay, really, whatever. So he actually took my Zen Tarot deck, and he shuffled. He did everything that he did. And he pulled a card. And his first card he pulled was awareness. And I said, okay, great. So then he was looking at some other ones, and we went through the whole thing on the awareness. And I had this small little deck of pocket cards, and it's a Buddha deck, and it's just one little, words or two words from Buddha that expresses where we are, whatever that message might be. So he goes, oh, okay. He looks at those. He shuffles them, does his thing, pulls a card, and it was awareness. So he pulled the same card from two different decks within 15 minutes of each other. And I just looked at him and I said, see? And he laughed, and he took some interest, and he spent some time playing with the cards and getting a few messages. But he was really quite impressed. And I thought it was interesting because here's, these opportunities where we're looking to, maybe doubt the power, the wisdom, the insight of these cards, where they can actually really, truly bring some meaning to our life. And to me, these are just some of the small things that make me look at and go, something to pay attention to, something to look at. So that's really what we're going to do here today, is have some fun with some cards. Now, I've got my helpful people in the back end of the studio, and we're running through Zoom today. Now, if there's anybody out there watching who would like a card reading or would like to take a deeper dive, you're welcome to join the program. Come on live with me, and we'll do some cards. You can also, please, if you have any comments or questions, please please put them in the comments, and I'll see them, and I'll speak to you, because one of the things about your wake-up call that I found really struck me about a month or so ago is I don't want to be talking to you guys all the time. I want to be speaking with you, because it's not about me. This is about you guys. And I want to be able to give you value, and I love interacting with people. So if you want to join me, I invite you to join me here live. You can do that. And if you want to make some comments, I'll be able to see them, and I'll be able to comment back and answer your questions, and we can go from there. So that being said, because this was my favorite deck of cards, we're going to pull a deck of cards first, or one card from this deck. And this is the Ascended Master by Doreen Virtue. Really a great deck. And what I love about a lot of these decks is the artwork is fantastic. And they all have different meanings and different themes in the cards. You can get spirit animal cards and get message from the spirit world and spirit animals. It's really quite fantastic. So as you can see, like, this is just an example of one of the cards. White Tara means purification. You have the Green Man, who says retreat into nature. Interesting story about this card. I was looking through the book one day, and I noticed there was one card I had never seen. And I went through and I counted all the cards and compared everything to the book. And I was missing a card. I don't remember what it was, but I had the right number of cards. But I had 2 Jesuses in my deck. So I thought that must have been symbolic of something, or it was just an accident in a print shop. But I like to, as meaning makers, because we're human, I like to give it a more empowering meaning, because the meaning here is to open your heart to love. So maybe I got 2 of them because I had to open my heart to love more, I guess. Not that that would be a bad thing, right? Babaji, he's talking about yoga, but you can see the artwork's quite beautiful. So ideally, a simple card reading, one of the things I always like to do is knock the energy out of the deck. Whoever was on it last time has their energy and muju going on in there. So I like to knock it out, have a nice clean deck. And this is going to be a card that I'm going to pull for everybody watching. And even if you're not watching live, this card is for you, because the energetic projection, that was a card we pulled earlier before we went live, will have its meaning for you too. So what I like to do, again, I showed you, shuffle, knock the energy out. You can infuse some of your heart energy into your cards and focus on your intention. It might be a question about life, relationships, kids. It could be a question about anything. What I'm focusing on right now is, what is the message that we all need to hear? If we're all going to hear the same message right now, what can apply to each and every one of us, wherever you are in the world, whatever language you speak, whatever culture you're from, wherever. This card is going to be a message for all of us. So I'm going to give it a little shuffle. Oh, I see we have someone in the back end studio by the name of Radhika. Maybe she's going to join us. Awesome. Give us 1 minute and we will get to you. So I'm going to take the card from the top. And that's just where I felt it was necessary for me to stop, because y'all go by feel. I've laid out cards. I've been able to feel sparks of energy from certain cards at certain times. And yeah, so you can be guided to the card. Take your time with them. Absolutely. So we pulled artistic expression. And the image is Paul the Venetian. Artistic expression. First thing that comes to my mind is, are you expressing yourself artistically? In the world today, what are you doing that is expressing your authentic self in a creative, fun, playful, joyful way that people go, wow. And even if people don't go, wow, it's for you too, right? So let's see what we have to hear, because they always have a book. I want to read from the book because there's a message in there. So it's artistic expression. Let's take a look. Paul the Venetian. So this card signals that your artistic talents, that's you watching, are in need of creative expression. You have hidden talents that lie dormant. This trapped energy can make you feel tired, restless, and anxious, and can lead to addictions if the energy isn't expressed. Even if your artistic abilities feel unpolished, they need an outlet. Make the time today to draw, paint, sing, play, music, write. Music, there's music again for me. Write, there's write for me. That was my third one, right? Take photographs, make jewelry, sew, dance, or do something artistic and creative. You may find the key to your life's purpose and ideal career through this process. Interesting, right? Life's purpose, write, music. I can relate to some of this stuff in here, so can definitely apply to me. And one thing I will say, this is one of the ways for me to express myself artistically and creatively, because as you can tell, I'm not scripted. Now, the additional meanings for this card are you can take a class to learn a new artistic skill. One of your loved ones is an artist. Express your true feelings. Your life's purpose involves an artistic endeavor, such as writing or playing music. Oddly enough, that's for me, that's for sure. So now, who is Paul the Venetian? Because he's symbolized on the card, right? So he's got a meaning of what he represents in the world and through history and our mysticism and everything else. So let's find out about Paul the Venetian, shall we? Paul the Venetian was the Italian Renaissance artist Paolo Cagliari. His last name was later changed to Veronese to signify his birthplace of Verona. He moved to Venice, which is why he's now called the Venetian, where he painted the religious murals and paintings. He was successfully able to defend himself against charges of blasphemy during the Inquisition for his artistic rendering of the Last Supper. You can call upon Paul the Venetian for help with freeing your artistic expression and creativity. So if you need help releasing and freeing, call on Paul the Venetian. He's here with us all. That's what that one's about. So I hope maybe you got something out of that for yourself. I know I did. It really resonated with me, and I think it really kind of tied into the beginning of my story of how we even thought we'd pull cards today, right? So thank you for paying attention and being part of that. Looks like our guest left. Well, you're welcome back. You can always come back if you're still watching. So for me, that's why I find cards so fascinating, because even in that one short reading, that one little bit that we did, for me, it talked to what I had already talked about: purpose, writing, music. And with further ado, our guest is back. So we're going to bring her on. I don't want to say her name incorrectly, but I believe it's Radhika. Welcome to your wake-up call. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I hope you can hear me too.
I can
Hello.
hear you too. Radhika, thank you for joining the program. My first question I always want to know is, where are you in the world today?
So right now I'm in New Delhi, India. I am joining from India.
Wow, I love it. Great. And it's morning time over there, I imagine.
Yes, it is. It is. It is.
Awesome.
First thing I see that you're live, and then you're doing something on the cards, and I was like, okay, I'm joining this. I have.
Awesome. Well, I just follow my gut, my intuition of what comes up for the week, and I thought cards were really appropriate, because if you heard my story in the beginning, just the experience I had on the weekend, when I see that stuff happen, I can't help but, know there's something to it. Right?
Yes, definitely. Yes.
So tell us about yourself. What brings you here? What do you want to talk about? You want to pull some cards? You want to have a little reading?
So I do card reading myself, and I think that what really pulled me to this. I just wanted to see how you do it, because you have a different tone, you have a different style to how you represent things, how you feel about things, how you perceive things. So I've been watching you since the beginning, and I've attended your talks while you were, while you came for the other programs for PSSM Global. So it's been a joy to watch you every time. So I just wanted to see what is happening, what you're doing, what you are giving, what is the treat that you're giving us today. So definitely, if you're pulling out a card, I would love that.
Oh, we can
But I would have
definitely
really
pull out a
happy with
card.
the card you
But
pulled out just right, because I think the meaning was really apt as to what you just pulled out for everyone.
mhm.
I could feel I could resonate with the reading. It felt as if this is exactly what everyone needs right now. That creative power
Right?
has to come from within. Yeah, it was absolutely
Mhm.
spot on. It was
Well,
amazing.
this is
So
the
feeling
time,
great.
especially as so many other parts of the world are, I hate to say it, but kind of locking down and tightening up again,
Yeah,
especially here in Vancouver. And for me, I think it's just a great time for everybody to, paint, write a book, do something artistic and creative that expresses yourself, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you for that. And thank you for saying you've been watching from the beginning. It's nice to know that there's people out there watching and getting value, if at the very least not entertained. And yeah, I'm kind of different. I have a hard time taking life overly serious, you know?
Yeah.
So I like to have the lighter side of things. I
Yeah.
like to laugh a lot. I like to be playful. And I
Yeah.
find that brings us more into the moment, you know?
Of course.
And
Yes.
now set and setting, time and circumstance, there's a time for everything when you got to be serious or you got to be quiet or, because even when we do ceremonies and different things, set and setting, we have to
Yeah.
respect that. And there's certain
Definitely.
times, you do a card reading depending on the set and setting. For me, it's important to be I want to be engaging and fun. And this is what I like to do. And this is who I am anyways. So it's just kind of my style, but I always go to the book. There's always a quick message when you see it. And what's interesting for those of you out there in cards, sometimes you look at a card and you'll never know what that means. Right? 'Cause
Yeah.
that's a sigil. That's why you have to go to the book.
Yeah.
Just like this other deck I have. I'm going to get into this one deck because this one deck's awesome. It's from Teal Swan. This one's Divine Guidance. Awesome. This was one of my second decks I ever got. And again, it was a great deck, but they don't always have a message in writing. And this is just a beautiful sacred geometry image that can actually awaken and trigger and activate your DNA and your unconscious in a different way. But then I always go to the book. So Radhika, I have a few different cards here. Do you have a favorite deck of your own that you use?
So I use this deck by Kylie J. So that has become sort of my primary deck, but I haven't used it for a long time since I just got new decks, added to my collection. So I think I'm just enjoying the different tastes of different cards and decks. But yes, I definitely love this card by the Keepers of the Light by Kylie J. It's
Beautiful.
absolutely amazing.
Do you know who Teal Swan is?
Yes, I do know her.
Okay.
So not really deeply, but yes, I just love how she has this different perception of everything in life. She's just one beautiful woman, really.
She is.
Inside out, that is.
So this is the deck we're going to work with this time. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to tell the story about this deck because it's funny. And it's another one of those really, it's a coincidence. No way, divine timing. So here's the story. We have a radio program I do for every Wednesday. It's called Conscious Living Radio. We get, information for different authors and speakers and people from all over. And Teal Swan's people reached out to us to interview her. So of course we said, absolutely. And she sends us a sample deck of the cards so we can, be familiar with them. How great is that? So now COVID happens and we're all kind of isolated, right? We're quarantined. And our co-host Tasha, she's like, or our host, she's like, well, I want a deck of cards. Well, can I have them? Go, I want them. I'm using them, right? And so we had this funny thing about it. And she goes, well, can we ask them for mail us another one because of COVID? And I'm thinking, ooh, I don't want to be, kind of greedy and think now we are having 2 decks of cards. I'm thinking. So a couple of weeks go by and I go into our office in another part of Vancouver and on my desk is a piece of mail. What do you think was in it? Another set of Teal Swan cards, the exact same set of cards. Didn't ask for them at all, right? So I'm like, okay, that's funny. And I'm thinking, okay, I got to tell Tasha about this. Hour or so later, I'm driving home. And for anybody who knows Vancouver, Tasha lives in the West End, offices in a different part of town, and where I was going, where she was going, I'm driving home and she calls me. And yes, I was talking to my phone, I was driving, but it all wires through, so I was okay. And she says, well, she's asking me how to get somewhere, and I'm telling her where she is. And she goes, well, I'm right here. And I go, what do you mean? She's at like what we would call Knight and Kingsway. And I go, what do you mean? I'm at Knight and Kingsway right now. And I told her the story about the card. So we were able to, in that moment, stop and meet it was just out of character for either of us to even be in that area. Right. And it was just the funniest thing. So to me, it's the power of the cards, the way it all divinely pulled it all together, Yes. So anyways, silly story, but it was fun. And it was just one of those things like, oh, this is meant to be. And then we had a great interview with Teal Swan. She was quite amazing. So now these cards are called the blind spot cards. Right. Do we know what a blind spot is?
Basically, somewhere where there is, there's always this, I don't know how to really explain it, but that there is some part of it that you don't know about, and you could just be surprised by it, maybe something of that sort.
Yes. Yeah. It's kind of something that's happening that you don't see. And maybe you don't see it. Maybe everybody else does, but you don't see it. And sometimes other people don't see it either. They call it a scotoma as well. It's when there's a blind spot in your vision. You can't see that. So she went and made all these cards, and they're all sigils. So, and the cool thing about these cards, if anybody ever gets a deck of these cards, and I highly recommend them if you like cards, but they also come with sigil tattoos. Oh. Right. So I think there was like 40 different tattoos that she had in the deck. So they're temporary things, right? But they were fun. I made sure I did one for the interview. She loved it. So I'm curious, Radhika, is there anything in your life you're looking for any insight in, clarity, problems need solutions? Everything's just so great.
So right now that you're doing it for me, I think I'm just in acceptance. I'm surrendering to the universe. Whatever comes to me, I will accept it with grace. No questions asked.
Blind spot. If you knew what it was, it wouldn't be your blind spot. No. Just kidding. Now, the first time I pulled this card when we did it for a radio show, I pulled reactivity. I said, I don't get reactive. Right? So I'm going to shuffle the cards and basically just tell me when to stop and then tell me where you want me to pull the card from, top, bottom, middle.
Okay.
Stop. No, keep going.
Stop. Yeah, stop.
Oh.
Middle.
It already answered for you. Because you said stop, it flipped.
Yeah, okay.
So, for everybody watching, it's sigil number 4. And this is what it looks like. Okay. Right, so sigil is, I can't exactly explain it myself, but they come from being channeled in their images, and they imprint, and they're a powerful image, but they've been used throughout time. So 4, let's see what it has to say. And now one thing I'm going to share with you all who's watching, whenever you're watching, this card is for you too, because Radhika is a goddess, and what she's asking for, because it's her blind spot, and because she's here, means it's for you too. So, this is a good one. I like it. 4 is your motives. Your motives. If you have drawn this sigil, you are not aware of your true motives in the situation at hand. In order to avoid the consequences of this blind spot, you are going to have to be brutally honest with yourself about your actual intentions, motives, and desires. You're going to have to do this even if it makes you feel as though you may be a bad person. As people, life is torture for us to live if we have a poor self-conception, poor self-concept. We have to see ourselves as good. But this means that for the sake of seeing ourselves in a certain way and being seen a certain way, we are perfectly capable of even fooling ourselves about the truth of our actual motives, intentions, and desires. For example, we might gossip and plot against someone simply because we are so envious or jealous of them. We might tell ourselves that we are marrying for love when in fact we are marrying a person simply because of status or security. We may say yes to something we don't want to do, but act as if we do want to do it so that we can get whatever reward we are after. We do this anytime we have a means to an end attitude. We may be acting two-faced, which is an indication that our true motive is being hidden. We may pay the bill simply because we want to force people to the table to be indebted to staying allied with us. As is often the case when someone does something to displease us and we say, after everything I've done for you, the problem isn't the motive itself. The problem is we are fooling ourselves about it and fooling others about it. This makes it deceit. If we want to transcend this blind spot, we must be willing to feel shame. We must be willing to really admit to ourselves what our actual motives, intentions, and desires are, even if doing so makes us see ourselves as bad or wrong. Otherwise, we are leading ourselves and others straight down the path of suffering. Woo! That was pretty
Amazing.
heavy, right?
Yeah, it was, yes. But exactly what I needed to hear, I guess.
Great. So I'm curious if you would share just from your own personal experience, what resonated there with you?
So I want to say, so basically cards are also what I have personally experienced, that cards are also very subjective to the moment you are reading it for yourself, and
Mhm,
they resonate with the current energy in your life, not
mhm,
always as to who you are in person and what you are in person. So right now, what you read for me is exactly, it's very apt to the situation, because I am really in that state where where I'm schooling myself to be very, very truthful to my own self for whatever I want in life, whatever I want to intend, because somewhere I'm learning, relearning, rewiring myself to talk to universe as I want to, and not, not in that state of not want, but in that state of whatever you give me, I accept it with grace, because
mhm,
this is exactly what I need. And lot more, what you said, it just made so much sense, perfect sense. And because we're all experiencing this human form, it's very easy to fall in the traps. So, and we do, and then we learn from them. So this is exactly my
Well,
time
we
of
hope we
learning.
hope we learn from them,
Yes, yes,
right?
I am in that mode. So this card is very, very apt, very apt. I'm so thank you, Mark. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Thanks for partaking. And I think when I was reading it, I'm certainly able to identify with some things in there because it's it comes down to why do you want what you want? And if you've been following my stuff, we always talk about why. You know, how will always show up. Why do you want what you want? And part of it's that feeling, and where they're talking about exactly that when they, because you want something that end result. Yet, how many times? And hey, I've done it. I can look at times in my life, even right now, where there's a few areas that way that, and part of it is I'm just giving and I'm doing anyways. But then there's sometimes I think to myself, man, for everything I've done for them, I don't say it to them, but I think it to myself. Right. And then I catch myself saying, well, you're doing it because you want to. Right. But then it causes that self reflection of going, huh. It's like, I'm giving all the time. And it's like, well, then why are you doing? Because you're expecting to get in return. Right. So you're not all of a sudden now you're not doing it selflessly. You're doing it because you're expecting something. And it's in the end, it's love, appreciation, money. I think it was a great example in the book where they talked about you marrying for love or money. Oh, yeah, marrying for love. Right? What do they say? Marry for love the first time or money the first time, love the second. I don't know. Crazy. But I think it's just a really important thing because how many people out there in the world today, and we talked about this, a number of times in the past in my programs that, we have to put other people's best interests at heart and be authentic and be real about it. Right. And if you're doing something to do it, just say it. Hey, I want to sell you this because I need to make some money. Right. Don't care about the product. Don't really care about you. I got to feed my family right now. Would be a whole different story than a salesman coming up and other than just schmoozing you and being that slick salesman. Right. But why is he doing it? Is he doing it because he loves selling used cars and that's his passion? And he wants you to have the best used car ever. And he knows cars inside and out. And I just love it. Or is he doing it because he wants to make a paycheck? And how many people are doing that even in their jobs, even trying to pretend to fake that they like it, right? Because we have to survive. We have to, support our family or friends, ourselves, whatever that might be. So I thought it was really a great card myself. I loved it, because motive matters. Your motive always matters. And for sustainability, and you use the word grace, which I really appreciated earlier. That has a big difference. And I think when we take a look at the state of the world today, for anybody watching wherever they are, there's that opportunity to take a look at our motives. Why are we doing what we're doing? In everything. So yeah, pretty powerful card. Awesome. That was fun. Yeah. Okay. So you want to pull another one while you're here? Nobody else joined us.
I think you should just pull the card for everyone in the group. Okay. I think you are amazing at it.
This is, I'm going to pull another one. I'm going to pull a couple. But I want to show this deck before I do it. This is a ayahuasca card deck. For anybody who's familiar with plant medicine, psychedelics for healing, this is ayahuasca, is a South American tea that brings spiritual and revelational experiences, used with a shaman and setting. And it's an integration deck to help people integrate their messages after journeying with plant medicine. From a friend of mine I work with, Ron Kaufman. So, I'll break those ones out. But this is one of my favorite decks, which I talked about in the beginning, is the Osho Zen Tarot deck. And this one is just, it's funny because I think it's a lot of people's favorite deck because I've been seeing it around a lot lately. And for those of you, all know who Osho is, Ratika, of Osho?
Yes.
Right? If you don't know Osho, you can Google him. He's an interesting guru and cat for sure. He's got some great stuff. Whoa, don't believe everything you hear, but I love him. So look at that. Here's how fast we got the card. This is one of the things about cards, how I do cards. If I start shuffling a card and something pops out and flies out of the deck, that's the card.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Don't go, oh, oops, I dropped one. No, that's the card you're supposed to have. And if you don't have cards, anybody watching out there, grab a deck, go to a bookstore or online and see what appeals to you, what calls you. That's how I do it, because there's so many to choose from. How do you know? Touch them, feel them, see which one resonates with you. Great deck. Osho Zen Tarot. Oh, how fitting. This is what I love. This is why they work so good.
Yeah.
Participation.
Oh, wow.
So for all of you out there watching right now, you should be participating. So there's still time to join us. We have 22 minutes left. And the interesting thing about this, what Osho has done with this deck is he runs it through with the actual tarots, with the arcanas and rainbows and kings and all of that. So he's done a really great job of this. So this is a 4 of fire. All right. Where are you? Participation. So again, here's the card. I'll show it to you because there's always meaning in the card. Okay. So it says, each figure in this mandala holds the right hand up in an attitude of receiving and the left hand down in an attitude of giving. The whole circle creates a tremendous energy field that takes on the shape of the double dorje, the Tibetan symbol for the thunderbolt. The mandala has a quality like that of the energy field that forms around a Buddha, where all the individuals taking part in the circle make a unique contribution to create a unified and vital whole. It is like a flower whose wholeness is even more beautiful than the sum of its parts, at the same time enhancing the beauty of each individual petal. You have an opportunity to participate with others now to make your contribution to creating something greater and more beautiful than each of you could manage alone. Your participation will not only nourish you, but will also contribute something precious to the whole. Beautiful. That resonates pretty great too, right? We all need to participate these days, I think. All right, here's the other part. He has two parts. Have you ever seen night going? Very few people even become aware of things which are happening every day. Have you ever seen the evening coming? The midnight and its song, the sunrise and its beauty? We are behaving almost like blind people in such a beautiful world. We are living in small ponds of our own misery. It is familiar, so even if somebody wants to pull you out, you struggle. You don't want to be pulled out of your misery or your suffering. Otherwise, there's so much joy around. You have to just be aware of it and to become a participant, not a spectator. Philosophy and speculation, Zen in participation, participate in the night leaving, participate in the evening coming, participate in the stars and participate in the clouds. Make participation your lifestyle, and the whole existence becomes a joy, such an ecstasy. You could not have dreamed of a better universe. Well, whoever dreamed up this universe did a pretty good job, right? You know, like as much as you can explain it, explain it. And because we all can't always explain it, then we should at least participate in it.
Yes.
Participate. What came up for you, Radhika? I'm curious.
So while you gave this card, so that design really resonated with me. It also, I think, represented some elements in the nature, I guess, for me. Mm-hmm. So I think we have to become more active in participating in, kind of renewing Mother Earth is what came up for me here.
The planet needs us right now. Yeah. I don't know what's happening in India, but here in Vancouver, we're on the Pacific, north coast of North America, kind of in the middle, just above Seattle, for those of you who may not be aware. But we've got fires all through Oregon and California and everything going on, like just crazy. And the smoke is even so bad up here, right? It's just been smogged right in. And, the world needs our help more now than it ever did. And she's going to correct herself whether we like it or not. And I think the better we can do to take care of her, nature is the foundation of life. Exactly. Without a doubt. And we need to start being more mindful and participate in her healing. Yeah. That's one thing I get from that. Yeah. We all need to do our part to reduce, reuse, recycle. Don't buy so much stuff either, people. We don't need it, right? Because of your motive. What's your motive? It all comes back. Exactly. You can always make that, some sort of a, relation to those sorts of things.
Very relatable, yes. Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's, and not to mention, just participate in your life. Don't be I like what the reading said, don't be a spectator. Get in the game. And so many of us will watch life happen around us, and life doesn't happen to us, my friends, it happens for us. And when we embrace that, we participate and we be, our authentic selves, everything becomes that much more enjoyable. Awesome. So Radhika, you going to stay on for one more?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm enjoying this too much. I'm not going anywhere.
I like it. Well, I thank you so much for joining. And, it's something I want to do weekly is I want to bring people on because I love to know people are out there watching, getting value, enjoying. And if they have questions, I can be of any service in any way while I'm here. I'd love to answer specific questions too, because hey, if it can help someone, why not? That's how I participate. And that's part of my artistic expression, right? It's like my favorite teacher, Tony Robbins, would say, he spent years and years learning all sorts of different ways to help people. And he said at one point, he says, I can teach you all the techniques that I use to do it in all these different situations. And they're good techniques to have because it's worked for him. He says, once he figured out what it was he was doing and how he was doing it, right? The steps he was kind of using that he didn't necessarily know. He says, then it became an art. And then in our teaching and what he shares and through leadership and our training to kind of understand and be able to use the tools and kind of the things he does in a way, he says, then it becomes an art because I don't know what the story is going to be. I don't know what it's necessarily. I just know I'm going to solve the problem. I'm going to get the result, and I just love that. And says it's an art. Yeah, I like that. Okay, here we go. Say when.
Stop now, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where do you want?
Bottom.
Bottom. So I'll take it from here. So these are, again, like we're saying, ayahuasca cards. They're really quite beautiful. Anybody knows anything about sacred geometry? This is the back end of the card, but it's quite beautiful. And psychedelics have gotten a bad rap over through the 60s and the 70s. But what they found is ancient indigenous people have been using psychedelics for healing, transformation, spiritual work throughout history, using, this what we'd refer to as the sacred mushroom, that people call the magic mushroom. Even cannabis can be used for spiritual work and as a spiritual ally. Ayahuasca, which, they make a brew, and it's very visionary for sure. So, but that's what that is. So these are integration cards and these, what I was showing you, there's a couple of snakes intertwined and how it all works. But integration, now that's what I spoke about when I met Pari and Patrici at Cosmic Reset last year. And because integration, we can get all of this stuff. We can read all of these cards. We could do all the personal development. We can read all these. We could do all this, what we would call maybe work, but the work is integrating it. Other than that, we're just learning some stuff. And if we don't embody the things that we learn, in this personal development world, we kind of call it shelf help. We just put our workbook back and we never look at it again. But it's important to integrate the new lessons and the habits and into our way of being so that, it enhances our life even more. So this card is Shakapa. Let me show you. It's basically a grass rattle. It's got a couple of other rattles around it. Okay. So Rowan Kaufman also has a great handbook called the Psychedelic Integration Handbook. It's integration, everything you need to know about integration. It's really quite powerful. Okay, let's see. Chakapa. You could rattle the stars, she whispered. You could do anything if only you dared. And deep down, you know it too. That's what scares you most. And that's a quote from Sarah Moss in 2013. I want to read that again because it was good. You could rattle the stars, she whispered. You could do anything if only you dared. And deep down, you know it too. That's what scares you most. Well, now you're talking to me, right? I'm not going to say I can't relate because I'll be the first guy right here to say, been there, done that. So I'll be back from so many things in my life, in my opinion. And I also say that everything happens for a reason, not necessarily the time. And that's why I'm out here doing what I'm doing today, because I'm kind of starting to do it even more and more and more all the time. So, but I love it. I can relate. Can you?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so read what this has to say. The chikapa is the leaf rattle that I was showing you in the middle, the chikapa, right? In ceremony, they'll shake the chikapa and sing ikaros, which are medicine songs. Okay, so the chikapa is the leaf rattle used in ayahuasca ceremonies. It is the rhythm of the medicine and used by the healers to move stuck and dense energy. The persistent rhythm of the chikapa also sets the context for the ceremony. It sets the mood, brings out the power of the medicine, and the rhythms help the conscious mind relax long enough to journey into the spiritual and mystical realms. The sound of the chikapa can bring focus back to the ceremony when the group energy is too loose or unfocused. Furthermore, it is said that people had songs for ceremonies and rituals. They instead would use rhythmic patterns to focus their prayers and do their healing work. For all of these reasons, the chikapa and its rhythms are important. The chikapa card is all about learning to bring focus, concentration, and intensity to situations. If you are choosing the chikapa card today, it is letting you know that you need to bring more focus and concentration to your life. These cards are talking to me tonight, I'll tell you what. Maybe you have been too spaced out, too relaxed, taken on too many projects, maybe, and not able to focus enough to complete one, or perhaps you just need to pare down and focus on one thing for a while. The Chikapa card is about bringing forth the passion that comes through focus. When you are inconsistent and weak in your follow through and expression of your personal power, it can easily become disparate and ineffective. The Chikapa card is a teaching in how to be strong and solid in who you are and in moving forward with your projects, your goals, and your life without distraction. Well, I don't want to tell too many stories out of school, but I related to that one too. Great. What do you think? Did you get something out of that one, Radhika?
Yeah, I think we all need this focus and concentration, and all the work that we're doing right now as the spiritual leaders or the spiritual seekers, for that matter, we need to pause, reflect, and think definitely. So I think it's a message for everyone. You are amazing at it. Really.
Hey, I'm just being myself. This is my artistic self-expression.
Yes.
That's how we started the program, and
Yeah.
and that's just it. And this is where where I resonate with it. I'll be honest with you. I get busy on so many other projects. I don't always line up a guest every week, and it's like, what do we talk about? I got so many things I'd love to talk about and share, that I just kind of go with the flow, and I see what organically comes up until my guest works out, or, because like I say, I got all these other projects. So that's why I really resonated to that one, going, no, a little bit of focus. Yeah. Concentration. I hope Pari's not watching, because then she's going to go, hey, what's he doing here? Not prepared. And here's the thing. I am prepared because I've been on this planet for 53 years. I love my life. I love what I do. I do my best not to take things seriously. I've read enough, studied enough, done and learned a whole bunch of stuff that I figured, if I can't speak from my heart authentically for an hour about the things I love, then something's wrong, right? And it comes down to what that one card that was talking about, or the quote about, not stepping up because you're afraid or whatever it is. And that's where I just step into it, because I know that, and that's why I love speaking with people, because who knows what they're going to come up with, right? And if I can help someone on the spot, or have a great conversation, that's what I love to do. I could do it all day long. This is my third time, just anybody watching, this is my third show today. We produced our radio show today, this afternoon. And we did another one because we had our Spirit Plant Medicine Conference, which is actually about plant medicine. So when we talk about the ayahuasca cards, we have a 3-day conference coming up in October that all talks about the healing properties and use of these kind of plant medicines for healing. So, there's lots on the go. And I love conscious conversations. And when things get really scripted or too pre-planned and want to be perfect, if I'm doing that kind of presentation, that's a different story. But I just want authentically connect and communicate with anybody who may be watching. And if somebody doesn't come on or doesn't ask questions, well, trust me, I've been known to talk a lot. So, but that's just me. Again, my artistic expression that we started with the first card that we pulled today. And, we had motive was a great one, our blind spot on motive, right? The Chakruna. Yeah. Thank you so much, Ulrika. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on, if there's anything else that kind of sums up what you're feeling in this moment in terms of the cards that we pulled and what resonates for you.
Yeah, so I think all the cards that you pulled out today, I think they're all interrelated in some or the other way. And I think there's a huge message for everyone watching or will watch this show later. I think these cards are very, very, I won't say generic, but the meaning is very deep and it's very, I would say, relatable to the current situation. I think people really need to step up, let go of fear, kind of accept their creative expression, their creative freedom, and do what is right. And just be like the indigenous people who were just fearless. They stepped up to their entire existence, and they did not think twice who was shunning them out, or who was just calling them maybe mad witches or whatever. They did not care about anything. They just did what was right for Mother Nature and for their own selves. So I think stepping up is a big thing for me right now, and be very clear of the intentions that you want to put to the universe.
I love it. Yeah, and I really appreciate what you're saying about the indigenous people and the history of just like connection with the land, and nothing was wasted. It was honored. It was appreciated. It was, just a different way of living than we live today. And we need to get back to that authentic place of communing with nature and coming back to our own nature, which is love, right? Our own nature is love. We all want to be loved. We fear rejection the most. So let's not reject people. Let's love people, right? Let's open up our hearts and be accepting and non-judgmental. And,
exactly.
And if we find ourselves, because we are human, going down that road, if you catch yourself, then you're waking up, and it's a conscious awareness now that you're also, oh, I'm judging. Oh, I just need to appreciate and love this person. That's what they need. They don't want to be judged, right? And if we can have that level of awareness and develop that so that it doesn't happen again, and we just show up as love, then that's really what it is for me. And, love came up in our earlier show today when Bruce Damer was sharing about Terence McKenna, who was always about, the psychedelic experience and a whole bunch of different things. And he was near his deathbed. And he said, all of a sudden he came in this whole lucid moment and said, I had it all wrong. It's all love. It's all love. Yeah. Right. So
yeah.
My experience in 2007 with an ancient Indian meditation, the chakra dhyana, I had an experience that changed my life. And when I came back into my seat, the words out of my mouth were Lennon McCartney had it right. All you need is love. Right.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah. I guess that's the message where we're going to sign off today. It's perfect. Love one another, everybody out there. Take care of each other. It's your wake up call. So let's wake up to love. Let's wake up to fun, grace, joy, bliss. Let's not take life too seriously. Enjoy. And I thank Radhika for joining us. That was a fun experience. So until next time, my friends, we'll